Hello, welcome to a new episode of Ernestly Speaking with your host, Ernest Owens, myself. So today's episode, makes me reflect on a lot of things that's been going on lately. The more the sun is coming out, the weather is getting better. We're about to enter, full-fledged, crazy, hot, intense summer right now, right? It's like crazy outside. It's like, the weather goes like this polar vortex nonsense. It goes cold and it rains, it snows, it's like nuts. But of course, that means we get social. We go out, walking while black has become the new crime, right? Going out in the street, getting stopped, frisked as the term is, stop and frisk, right? And it's just driving me crazy. It's really getting on my damn nerves. The experience of, walking down the street, minding my business, at any day. It doesn't even matter if it's nighttime, daytime, sun up, sun down, somebody, a police officer, or some, campus security personnel in some area feel as though they have the right or feel as though they're entitled to stop me, pat me down, and embarrass me in public. It's humiliating. It's, it makes me feel like a second-class citizen. I've had situations where I've went, to my alma mater, walking down Penn's campus, mid-evening time. I remember this. And there was a group of people walking past. I saw some old classmates. One was white, one was Asian, and they were walking by and they said hi to me. And I said, oh, I'm just visiting campus to see a friend. I walked past the area. This had to be around the corner of Walnut by the fresh grocery area. So I'm walking to this area and I'm noticing there is a police officer that's just constantly just looking in my direction. And I don't understand why. I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, is there a crime around? Like, who's this suspect criminal? Something going on I don't know about? So I'm even looking around my surroundings, trying to figure out, what's the problem. The officer comes up to me, says, mind if you step over here, sir? I'm like, okay, I'm thinking there's something happened, I'm getting nervous. So, he asked me to, he just says that there was some suspicious activity in the area and they wanted to, basically pat me down because I fit the description. I was like, okay, well, if anybody fits a description with a nice, corduroy blazer and some loafers that I have on, sure, I guess I fit the description, right? So he pats me down, and then basically everyone around is looking. And so it's this awkward position where there are some of my peers looking, people I went to school with, people that I've worked with in class, I've seen on campus. They're looking at me and I'm, kind of feeling this weird awkwardness because for the first time in a long time, I'm in this position where I don't get stopped and frisked very often, but this was a weird experience because I was in a place that, I felt like I belonged. And just having that real life experience happen to me and then simply, being told, okay, all is clear, you're fine, and not really given a real extreme explanation about why that was the case, like what actually happened. I never found out why I was really stopped. I was just given the explanation of suspicious activity in the daytime at the University of Pennsylvania. Like, okay, really? So it just made me start thinking, like, what's being done? We have a mayor that has ran on this election, got all these black votes to get elected and say up and down, I don't care about I don't care about, excuses. And he was really much so saying that stop and frisk was wrong. And he racialized it and said that, his white son has never gotten stopped and frisked. And he made all these judgment calls about the racial disenfranchisement of African American, mostly men, that have experienced this type of harassment. And yet when you're looking at the laws, the policies, and the changes that could have been made to create that, this mayor did not live up to what he said he was going to do. And so, as a Philadelphian, as a resident now, no longer just a student, now a graduate, now a taxpayer, it frustrates me even more to have these experiences. And, there's numerous men that, look like myself and come from different parts of this city that, have their experiences or, have their thoughts about what does stop and frisk mean to them. And so I want to know what other people in the audience, think about these experiences, the things they go through, and what they think about it. Okay. Hey, so what's your name?
Oh yeah, my name is Shaquem from What If Why Not Entertainment. I actually have been stopped and frisked before.
Okay.
At the time I was working as a nurse, and, taking care of elderly people.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't think that you would even be a person. Even though I wasn't wearing my nurse uniform.
Right.
That's what was my occupation, and that's how I was thinking. Help people. Help the wounded. And I was just in the store waiting for my food to be made, and the cops came in the store, and they did the same thing. They walked up to me inside of a commercial. They impeded commerce in order to get to me.
Wow.
So they stopped the whole transaction just to get to me and stop me and frisk me while I was in the store in line just waiting.
Okay.
I asked the cop for his badge number. He said jokingly 666. He jokingly said 666. And
wow.
To me, it was just like, you know what? I wouldn't want these type of people policing my streets. People that just, walk up to people. Number one, lie to them when they ask you a legitimate question.
Yeah.
Like, what's your badge number so I can, talk to the captain. He probably thought I was going to get in trouble or something like
Yeah, of course he did. And
Yeah.
so what was his explanation for why he did it?
He didn't have an explanation, Like, I don't sell drugs. I may look like a hoodlum because that's my culture, but at the same time, that's not what I do. It's not what I believe in.
And so he just stopped you just because?
Yeah, he just stopped me because he felt like I was someone. And there were actually other people in there that didn't look like me. They were like some Caucasian people that were in there, and they were the drug dealers. And you wouldn't necessarily know that they were.
Mm-hmm.
It's just because of how America has constructed this social environment that they target us when we aren't even the people that are literally doing the crimes and stuff.
Correct. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you. America creating structures, identities, stereotypes about individuals and what they look like and what they perceive. It's interesting because in these settings is that, for me, I was always given this impression that the way that you look and the way that you dress will make you exempt. This idea of respectability politics and that this notion of, how well you talk and where you're from, that the police are going to give you a pass and an exemption, which is completely not true. There's no difference in the way in which police will stop people of color. The things that we have in common is our skin color being stopped. It has nothing to do actually with any type of social class. There are many people that have gotten mistaken for being the help in communities. There's many times where I have went to job interviews and they thought I was the assistant to the person in which I was possibly working for the position because they didn't believe that I was someone there. There's been times where I was on a list to go to an event and my name was on the list and they literally made me show every piece of identification on my person just to get into a reception. It's not even beyond just simply police, but it just shows this racial profiling that takes place, which has been allowed because of the stereotypes that has been able to happen. But see, the difference between stereotypes that happen within individual institutions and private institutions. So if someone doesn't want you to come to their country club because they have a rule about no hats, no shoes, or no sneakers, that's a private institution. It's their rules. You make your own club. You can make people wear whatever you want them to wear, right? But when you're a public service, when you are a public entity where there's taxpayers' dollars involved, you consider yourself supposed to protect and serve all individuals in the city. You can't pick and choose and cherry pick who you want to protect, who you want to serve, who you want to make sure is okay, and ignore others who do. There used to be this culture that in 2016, when you have a city like Philadelphia that is predominantly non-white, I mean, there's more Black, Latino people combined. When you have a predominantly diverse city and environment, there's no way that you can, act as though, it's ridiculous. And the irony is that people think that more Black politicians and state heads and people that represent the community that's going to change this issue. But the reality is we have had these issues with a black mayor. We're having these issues with a white mayor again. We've had these issues with Rizzo. We had these issues with, let's not forget that the Move bomb dropping happened under the leadership of a black mayor. Okay? Let's not forget that some of the biggest hate crimes that has happened to LGBT individuals, to black individuals like Brandon Tate, happened under a black mayor. So I don't even think that the institutions that be, if you look at the issues in Baltimore, that was done under the leadership of a black mayor running the city. So these issues, political power, to me, once you get to that certain level of power, I personally think that they're all under the same type of mentality or vessel of obstructing justice, potentially. There is an obstruction of justice when you have police officers that are allowed to stop and frisk without no high levels of accountability. I've talked to Police Commissioner Ross numerous times, and sometimes the pushback from him has been in conversations of, if we stop and frisk, people are not going to have their communities protected. And I'm saying to myself, when you look at the numbers of stop and frisk reports, majority of the times, those people that have been stopped and frisked are predominantly black, and most of them were not found any criminal paraphernalia, drugs, and things that were related to whatever said suspicion that was initiated in the first place. In other words, it's not that effective. Stop and frisk is really not that effective. Stop and frisk has never really been about ensuring and pushing any type of grand screeching change to the justice system. So you mean to tell me, with all this stop and frisk, have you stopped gun violence in Philadelphia? Have you reduced the murder rate because of stop and frisk? Has that played a big role in changing the community, the streets, the drugs? Did that really do anything? What it did was it offsetted a huge string of mass incarceration that is taking place all across this country, and then it's found itself implemented within cities. Because we're building big prisons and we need excuses to lock people up. Maybe I'm a conspiracy theorist, or maybe I'm just using common sense because the numbers don't lie. Because this city has pushed big deals on producing prisons that has outproduced the amount of schools that they've kept open. You're looking at how many schools in Philadelphia stay open. How many of them actually stay open, right? And you look at the money that's going to the industry, which is the prison industrial complex, which is this idea of building more prisons, restocking facilities, bringing in all of these individual people to have this opportunity to make capital. It brings in business and money to the city, but it infringes upon many, again, non-white citizens. So when you're looking at a poor education system and a high prison budget and capital, do anyone see the classroom prison pipeline situation here? Do you not see the classroom to prison pipeline? Do you not see that, okay, if the schools are bad, the kids leave the schools, they skip school, the truancy rate is bad, they create a record, then they're most likely not going to be able to get a job. If the economy is really bad like everyone claims it is, and gentrification is, a damned system, then where else do they go? It would seem as though they would be going to fulfill that quota that the prisons need in order to maintain itself. It would seem as though those individuals are the ones that fit the description of prison, because we know that black men are 29 times more likely to get arrested before they turn 26 than their white peers. Their chances of actually going to jail and getting arrested and being stopped and frisked is astronomically high. It's ridiculous. I don't even know a white person who's been stopped and frisked just to be stopped and frisked. I don't think I know any, but I can count on my fingers, toes, the hairs on my chinny chin, and scalp of how many black men have been stopped and frisked. And it's embarrassing because when you talk to police commissioners that are black and you talk to their assistants that are black and their officers that are black, everyone says, yeah, we know it's a little messed up, but then no one wants to say it is because everybody wants to be above reproach when it comes to dealing with citizens. Because nobody wants to say what needs to be said, that it's not that stop and frisk is not effective, it's just that police officers, some of them are just a little bad. because it's so scary to say that police officers are bad. No one wants to say that there are some bad police officers. No one is not saying all police officers are bad, but see, I play this logic when I look at, the way that stop and frisk work, right? If you want to say that we have to have stop and frisk because there are some suspicious criminal people out there, then why can't we reverse that and then turn around and say, well, then those who are executing stop and frisk, there might be some bad, corrupt police officer, because no institution is perfect. Every single institution from the government, if government can have corruption, if elected officials can be corrupt, police officers, the police fields and forces can be corrupt. If regular citizens and Wall Street and corporations and schools can be corrupt, why can't certain police institutions have some level of corruption, and why can't they be held accountable? Because the argument continues to be, we risk our lives, we do this. Yes, but guess what? If the people that you're serving to protect and make sure they're okay, if they don't feel safe, if certain people don't feel as safe, then why does it matter? I'll give you a good example of double standards here. And this is why I tell people that race is not going to be ignored in this conversation. So on St. Patrick's Day weekend, or the Mummers Parade, okay, New Year's, big, huge Mummers Parade, bunch of people out, white people predominantly, in these parades in costumes. They say racist stuff. They do costumes that offend people. They do blackface. They do every type of, disgusting, horrible thing you can think of in their sketches that will offend people that are not white, that are not straight, that are anything outside of what they're used to, because they want to go back to the antebellum good old days, right? So then they make these offensive remarks. They get drunk. They publicly urinate on the sidewalk in the streets. And when you look at the number of arrests that are made and you compare them to the black protesters getting arrested, there are either less or they're either just the same number of the people that get arrested for protesting. So there were black protesters at this event, and most of them were getting stopped and solicited for protesting this. But the people that were actually out there in the streets doing some of the most ridiculous things were either unarrested, their reports and crimes did not follow through, and they were not necessarily held to the same level of scrutiny as those that were protesting. You want to talk about St. Patrick's Day? What if we brought, Juneteenth, which is a predominantly black celebrated holiday, from the South to Philadelphia? And we made the Tunde Festival a bigger event. And we were out here in the streets drinking and carrying on. Do you think that the police for 5 seconds would just let that just happen without making sure people was getting ID'd and searched and stopped? Do you think that that same level of police leniency towards those white St. Patrick goers every year, or Mummers goers, would be the same for those black if they wanted to celebrate a holiday like that? I think not. I'm willing to bet money right now that if there was a group of black people congregated for whatever reason, Cinco de Mayo, any social event you can think of, if there were as many of them out here dressed up in colors, drinking, mind their business, I promise you that there would be more arrests and citations given out than it would be for those out there doing St. Patrick's Day. I can guarantee you that. It's almost like I feel like a police officer when I'm going on SEPTA, right? I get on there, I see all these white people drunk in green, harassing, bothering, annoying people. Some of them say the N-word. I've had that experience. And police officers sometimes just hang out and laugh at them. Sometimes just letting them go by, saying it's St. Patrick's Day. Could I do something like that? If I have a group of my friends out, we're scared to laugh loud in a restaurant without being told to leave. We're scared to walk together in a big, huge group, with our hands not out because people would think something was going on. I can't even walk in the grocery store with a group of people sometimes without feeling like I'm being harassed, even though there is this suspicious behavior. And when we talk about suspicious behavior, no one ever asks the question, what makes it suspicious? What makes it suspicious? Do we ever ask, when we hear this wordage, right, of suspicious activity going on, what is suspicious? What's suspicious? Do you see anything on my person? Do you see anything? These pants are so tight. I don't think I can hide anything here, right? What is suspicious behavior? Every time, that was the thing I told the commissioner when I talked to him. I said, when you say suspicious activity, what is suspicious activity? What is suspicious activity? What is this threat that you feel like is happening. And then what happens when you search me and then the suspicion's over? What happens? What happens when you stop me and you search me and then you say suspicious activity? So then once you stop the one black guy that's in the group, right, and you search him, does the suspicious activity just go away? Does it just magically disappear? Is all clear because the black guy that you were scared of? I'm confused. Like what happens with the suspicious behavior, this crime that you speak of? Because it's funny because, this year, for the first time in a big number of years, the recruitment numbers declined this year in recruiting this academy. Philadelphia Police Force has just recently, not too long ago, announced that their academy, they're graduating the smallest police academy that they've had in a long time. So less people are signed to be police officers. Think about that. So important to be a police officer in Philadelphia with all the crime and things going on, but yet people are not interested in the job anymore. I mean, we don't have that many police officer killings in this city compared to other cities. So it's not like the risk factor and feeling as though your life will be threatened at a higher rate in Philadelphia is any difference. It's just that the gaze of the position in this city does not have as much respect as it used to because those who have had the position has not respected the role in which they're supposed to have. It's almost like, that time where everybody for 5 seconds wanted to do public office. It was a period of time where people were politically motivated in this country to, volunteer, do canvassing, protest, participate in politics, and do something with elections. Now, people are so cynical of the political system because they've seen so much corruption. And I think that same cynicism is coming to the police force because we're experiencing it. When I was little, I wanted to be a police officer. For like 5 seconds when I was like 3 years old, I saw cops. And then when I realized that now watching cops, as a black man that's 24 years old, it doesn't look and feel the same anymore. This idea that there were good cops and there was bad people, it's a blurry line now. Like now I feel like there's this weird line. Like now everything that I grew up thinking was so black and white is now a big, huge gray. Looking at police officers now, it's not that I'm in fear of police officers, but I just feel distrustful of them. And police officers are going to watch this episode and you're watching it right now and you're mad. I must clarify, not all police officers are bad. But I would like to also tell police officers, not all black men are suspicious. Not all black men who aren't wearing suits and corduroy vests and Aldo shoes and tight pants, not all of these men are doing criminal behavior. So if you don't want to make perceptions about us, then I suggest that, we don't make them of you, but too much is expected, much should be given. You can't run around and pride yourself on saying you're saving lives, protecting lives, when some of you all are harassing them. You say, black on black crime. You try to throw that caveat out there. Well, why should you get on the police officers with killing each other? Shut up. Because, why? Because white people kill each other every day too. Every community kills each other at a higher rate than any other community. The irony is that there is not that much black on white crime in comparison to race. So no one uses the word white on white crime. You know why? No one uses white on white crime because of the fact that they're not being oppressed by others ahead of them. So people use black on black crime as a scapegoat to try to justify their killings by cops. It's like a way to deflect the conversation. It's like going to somebody and telling somebody, you know what, you cheated on the exam. Well, you don't say nothing when your father cheated on the exam last week. That has nothing to do with him. Why are you talking about that? We're talking about what you're doing. They deflect. Black people killing black people has nothing to do with police officers meant to protect and serve killing black people. That has nothing to do with it. It's almost frivolous to assume that crime doesn't. So all of a sudden, there's this idea, this magic black community, this idea that if black people want to be treated with respect, want to be protected by the police, want to be able to have no justification that they have to be the most intelligent, articulate, bright, perfect people ever. Like, you can't make no mistakes. Because in order for you to get treated like a first-class citizen in a country that your ancestors were enslaved to, you have to be perfect. You can't make no mistakes. You can't be human in order to be given human rights. So in order for me to not be able to get harassed by a police officer, I have to be on my P's and Q's every single damn day. I can't make not one mistake. I can't, have an opinion. I can't speak my mind. I can't ask questions. I can't do anything that a human being would do because of the fact that because I'm black, I need to be perfect in order to be protected. That's ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. And the notion of saying things like black on black crime or clean up your streets or do this and do that to deflect from the simple aspect of just simply asking the question of not being harassed, to not being stopped and frisked. I should not have to be responsible for my entire community's burdens for me to hold you accountable to do your damn job. Your job is to protect and serve me. Your job is to make sure that I am not being harassed. Your job is to make sure that you have a reasonable explanation for searching me. Your reason is not to just say in the name of suspicious behavior. Your whole purpose is not to find reasons why you should not be protecting me other than just doing your damn job. Because at the end of the day, whether or not black people stop killing each other like white people kill each other, no matter how much crime and violence happening in other situations stop, you still have to take an oath and do your job. You was trained to do your job. Your job does not lower or change based off of my actions. What I do and what happens in my community does not change what you are supposed to do. I am no longer making excuses anymore. I'm no longer going to blame hoodies for why people get stopped. I'm not going to blame toy guns. I'm not going to blame someone asking a police officer a question. I'm not going to make excuses for unacceptable behavior. Because at the end of the day, if I'm expected to be the most perfect, absolute person that I can be every day I wake up in the morning, I expect the same from the police officers that are paid from my taxpayers' dollars and my votes to do the same. Thank you.